Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. We have a lot of people to go through tonight. We're going to start out with UltraViolet, aka Isabel Collin Dufresne, who died recently at the age of 78. Andy Warhol once said that everyone would be famous for 15 minutes, and UltraViolet was one of those people because she was attached to Andy Warhol in the 60s. She was part of his factory. Factories were the early hipsters, the celebrities and near celebrities who hung out with Andy Warhol, mostly women, but also people like Lou Reed, who we've done a podcast on. A lot of drugs, a lot of kinky behavior. It lasted for a couple of years before the scene broke up. UltraViolet came from France, and she came off the boat from France, and she was met by Salvador Dali, who introduced her to Andy Warhol. He had her star in a couple of his movies. She actually got a bit role in Midnight Cowboy. The factory ultimately broke up when people died of overdoses. They gravitated away, and Andy Warhol was almost killed by one of his followers. This turned off UltraViolet, so she sort of gravitated away from the factory after that, renounced Andy Warhol and the people she was with. She became an artist in Chelsea. I read somewhere where she became a Mormon, which should be surprising. Here's a brief interview with her about her days at the factory.
Hi, my name is UltraViolet. When I came off the ship from France when I was 16 years old, the first person I met was Salvador Dali, and I realized that I was born surreal. The factory was rooted in hedonism, in fame, in glitter, in appearance, in the surface. But I think Warhol was extraordinary in the fact that the door was open, anybody could walk in, and the whole world went in. The first really networking in the United States was the factory. Now you go to an art opening, it's only networking.
UltraViolet, born surreal, became a networker, and then an artiste. We're going to move on now to Daniel Keyes, who died recently at the age of 86. Nice Jewish boy born in Brooklyn. He was a writer. He had one great book in him, and it was the 1959 Flowers For Algernon, which was the book that the movie Charly was based on, and we talked about that when we did the Cliff Robertson podcast. The book sold more than 5 million. For a while, it was a staple in schools. It's sort of gone out of favor a little bit now. The movie in 1968 won an Academy Award for Cliff Robertson for his portrayal of Charly. Here he is with Claire Bloom.
Charlie, I'm going to show you some pictures. Look at me. What happened in this picture? What do you see?
Is there something missing?
No. I want you to make up a story about these people.
Well, I can't make up a story about people I don't know, Miss Kenyon.
Yes, you can. You can make believe. Make up a story.
Is that a family?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a family. Who is this?
It's a father.
Right. That is the father. Then who is this?
It's a mother.
Huh? If that is the mother, then do you remember your mother?
Yeah, sometimes I remember her. I think I remember her sitting on the edge of a bed, putting her hand on my head and saying, "He's burning up." But then maybe it was the Woman at the Institute. I don't know. Probably the Woman at the Institute. Probably the Woman at the Institute.
Cliff Robertson was a great actor, did a great job there, and I have a feeling Dustin Hoffman studied that when he did Rain Man 20 years later. Found out while researching Daniel Keyes, he grew up in Brownsville, really tough section of Brooklyn where Murder Incorporated was from. Only a couple of blocks from my father, same neighborhood. He went to Jefferson High School, and when he was in high school, he worked at the East New York Bagel Factory, and he placed Charly at the beginning of the novel in a bagel factory. It wasn't in Brooklyn, but I tend to think it was a little autobiographical touch. Missed this one, but we're going to do it now. Mike Parker died in February at the age of 84. Mike Parker's legacy is all around you. He's known as the godfather of Helvetica. Here's a CNN report on Mike Parker.
What do you mean you've never heard of Mike Parker? We can almost guarantee you've seen his work. No, not that guy. Think about the sign above him. Or you might have seen his craft on a candy bar, as long as you didn't tear the wrapper in just the wrong spot. Mike Parker liked to say, "Type is my life." Parker is perhaps best remembered for his contribution to the font we see every day. He's considered the godfather of Helvetica. In his own self-deprecating humor, Parker liked to hint he was only in the right place at the right time, working as one of the type designers at a time when the business was getting ready for the digital world.
Matt did all the design work, and I ran the show as to what was to be designed. The result was history. It was the big linotype library.
With help from a competitor-turned-partner, CNN reports Parker actually used a Swiss typeface called Neue Haas Grotesk. He recreated the clear typeface for linotype machines, the industry standard for newspaper and magazine printing at the time. The revolutionary development inspired the 2007 documentary Helvetica. And while Parker is responsible for the development of more than 1,000 typefaces, Helvetica remains one of the most popular ever used, adorning anything from the face of buildings to the front of cars. It's been used by some of the biggest brands going back decades. Perhaps a writer for Fast Company put it best. Why would Parker need a stamped stone to tell that he had once lived on this earth? On every street corner, computer screen, and bookshelf, 1,000 fonts screamed that he was here, that he mattered.
We're going to close with our feature tonight. That's Horace Silver, who died at the age of 85. He was a master jazz pianist and composer, one of the last greats of the jazz era of the 1950s and 60s. His style was known as hard bop, and the jazz pianist Wayne Willent said every one of his solos was a master composition. Nobody said more with less on the instrument. His father was from Cape Verde, and so there's a definite Portuguese influence in his music, which you'll see in a little while. And here is NPR discussing Horace Silver.
Jazz pianist Horace Silver has died. As a band leader, he mentored some of the hottest musicians of the 1950s and 60s. As a composer, he combined blues, funk, and Latin sounds into jazz standards that are still played today. NPR's Walter Ray Watson has this appreciation.
Horace Silver was 11 when he and his father stumbled upon a swing band one warm Sunday night.
And I saw all these black guys getting out of the bus with their instruments. And I said, Dad, can we stay and just hear them play one number, just one number? No, you got to go to school in the morning. You got to get up early. Oh, please. I begged and pleaded. So he said, okay, one number.
Silver told NPR in 1996 that the band was Jimmy Lunsford's orchestra. His dad let him stay for 3 tunes. Silver credits that one event for a lifetime chasing jazz as a pianist and band leader. Silver grew up in Norwalk, Connecticut. By his early 20s, he was a good enough pianist to be hired by saxophonist Stan Getz. That was 1950. New York City became his home the very next year. Soon after, he co-founded the Jazz Messengers with drummer Art Blakey. It was a hothouse for young talent and future stars. Some later joined Silver's bands, including saxophonist Hank Mobley and trumpeter Kenny Dorham. Silver signed to Blue Note Records, and the label gave him free rein as a house pianist and arranger for nearly 3 decades. He created a sound that was the blueprint for countless jazz quintets in the 1950s and 60s, bluesy, soulful, funky.
I got the impression that sometimes some of the bebop players thought it beyond them to play funky, just kind of take your shoes off and get down into the real nitty-gritty of the music and get guttural, sort of get basic.
Silver's memoir, Let's Get to the Nitty-Gritty, says it all. His style was jazz's next big thing after bebop. It was called hard bop.
He is the guy who started all that.
Dan Morgenstern is Director Emeritus of the Jazz Studies program at Rutgers University. Morgenstern says Silver had great melodies, sophisticated harmonies, and rhythms you could dance to.
And they're very catchy. There's themes of Horace that stay in your ear, and he just had a knack for that.
Horace Silver's music was just as affecting in person. Dan Morgenstern recalls hearing the pianist at the 1958 Newport Jazz Festival.
His hair would be flying, and his head was bobbing from side to side and up and down, and he would be wringing wet when he came off that stage.
Drummer Roger Humphreys drove Silver's music into the mid-1960s. Humphreys saw Silver not just as an inspiring pianist, but as a mentor, he says, like a wonderful big brother.
He treated me very well. He made me, want to be in his band. He made me want to play for him.
Roger Humphreys backed Silver on the pianist's most famous composition. Song for My Father was written for the man who nurtured Silver's career in the first place.
My dad said to me one time when I was a little boy, he said, I'm not a rich man. I'm a factory worker, but if you want to go to college, I'll try my best to try to put you through college, I said, no, I don't want to go to college. I want to become a famous jazz musician, but whether I become a famous jazz musician or not, I just want to play music. If I play in just a local bar, all my life, I just want to play music. That's all I want to do.
And he did, for more than 60 years.
Here's bass player Christian McBride, creative chair for jazz for the LA Philharmonic, talking about Horace Silver, followed by a little bit of Silver's classic Song for My Father.
Horace Silver's music has always represented what jazz musicians preach but don't necessarily practice, and that's simplicity. It sticks to the memory, it's very singable, it gets in your blood easily, you can comprehend it easily. It's very rooted, very soulful.
I'll tell you who else was influenced by Horace Silver, and that was the co-founders of the rock group Steely Dan, Donald Fagen and Walter Becker. Fagen especially was a self-avowed jazz snob in high school, and he admitted listening to Horace Silver. And if you listen to the first couple of bars of Ricky Don't Lose That Number, you'll hear an eerie similarity to Horace Silver's Song for My Father opening. I didn't play you the opening there, but here's the opening for Song for My Father by Horace Silver. Okay, so that was in 1965. You'll notice that Portuguese flavor I talked about before that he got from his father from Cape Verde. Almost 10 years later, Steely Dan had a big hit with Ricky Don't Lose That Number. Here's the opening to that one.
Ricky, don't lose that number. You don't want to call nobody else.
Interestingly, when they asked Donald Fagen about the similarity there, he said, no. They may sound alike, but I think both Horace Silver and we picked it up from Sergio Mendes. Horace Silver let it slide, but they got in trouble a little later on. Karma came back to him. The title track to their 1980 LP, Gaucho, sounded a tad too much like jazz pianist Keith Jarrett's Long As You Know You're Living Yours. And Fagen and Becker said, well, we're the robber barons of rock and roll. And the fans of Steely Dan might have liked that, but Jarrett wasn't amused, and he sued them for creative theft, and he earned himself a writing credit for Gaucho. Didn't matter that much because by the 90s, these hip-hop guys were ripping off Steely Dan left and right anyway. I'll let you be the judge, though, on Song for My Father and Ricky Don't Lose That Number. I'm going to close on that note, literally, and I want to thank my producer, Sid Tepps, and in closing tonight, we're going to play a snippet from the 1960 Newport Jazz Festival featuring Horace Silver. The 1960 Newport Jazz Festival turned out to be a legendary one. While Horace Silver was playing, there was a riot gathering because the festival was oversold. A lot of rowdy teenagers, and they even had to call out the Rhode Island National Guard, forced cancellation of the festival the next year, and it had to relocate in 1962. That's all a story for a different day, so let's just enjoy Horace Silver. And unless I'm badly mistaken, I detect a little bit of George Gershwin and Summertime and the Livin' Is Easy in there.
Now, Horace Silver at the piano. Silver is an imaginative composer as well as a pianist, and through his writing, his playing, and the playing of his group, Horace Silver helped bring about a return to hard swinging in modern jazz, often reflecting the rhythms of gospel music. Here's one of his best-known compositions, Senor Blues.